Hello, everyone. At long last, we are live, and we are talking about some tough categories today, guys. Some tough categories. We're talking about, I think the main ones we're going to talk about is Best Actress, Actor, Adapted and Original Screenplay, Visual Effects, and I think those are the main tough ones we're going to talk about. And it's been about a week since the Oscar nominations. It feels much longer, if I'm being honest. Especially, I mean, we didn't really talk about it. The discourse surrounding all of the snubbage afterwards. I don't really consider the Barbie snubs in my opinion, but there was certainly a lot of talk surrounding all of that. But yeah, how do you feel about the nominations nearly a week later?
I agree. It feels like it's been a month. Yeah. Listen, I think that a lot of the outcry was from fans of Barbie who want to see it recognized. And I understand that. You want to see your favorite films, people you think are deserving, to be honored. And to be perfectly honest, I can't look at like the best director category and feel like, yeah, I probably would have put in Greta Gerwig for Martin Scorsese, but then maybe I would have put in Ava DuVernay instead of both of them. So, you always look at the spots, and I think it's inevitably going to be the case that you're not going to agree with all five. And that's where a lot of times this issue comes up. And I'm sure both of us would maybe take out, for example, Annette Bening. Maybe we would put Margot Robbie, but maybe we would put Natalie Portman.
I'd probably put Natalie Portman in there.
Or Anjanou Ellis-Taylor. I mean, it was just a fantastic year. And I know people say that in the defense of certain omissions, like it's a fantastic year. There are so many wonderful contenders, but it really is. And Barbie already is going to be remembered for being the #1 movie at the box office. And Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie were both nominated. That's where really I came down. It's like
they both got nominated. Yeah,
we're getting angry about people who already are getting honored. I mean, I look at a film like Origin. We look at, there were so many movies that just didn't get any recognition, and they're the type of movies that need that recognition. We saw so much more increased support for films like Zone of Interest and Past Lives because of the nomination. They were selling out theaters. They were, their rentals on digital venues like iTunes were going up. Like that's what I really love about the awards, is that they can bring attention to smaller movies. And Barbie doesn't necessarily need that. Now, it's still deserving of its attention. And I honestly think Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig were both nominated in the category that they really showed their craft. I feel Margot Robbie as a producer, as the person behind Barbie from the beginning. To me, that was her major accomplishment. Barbie is her baby, and she should be honored for the top prize. And then Greta Gerwig, I just think you heard Will Ferrell, Simu Liu, while they were casting, they thought this was the greatest script they've ever read. And so I'm glad she was nominated there. So it's tough. Barbie fans, I think, want to see love throughout. I think people also don't like that Greta Gerwig continually seems to be getting omitted from Best Director, first with Little Women and now this. But they also don't tend to go for populists. James Cameron was not nominated for Avatar 2. Bradley Cooper was not nominated for A Star is Born. Denis Villeneuve wasn't nominated for Dune. Ryan Coogler for Black Panther. They just don't tend to go with that type of directing achievement. And that's a separate conversation that I don't think is completely on and that's where I think a lot of the issue too came up with, because I think they were trying to then make it a case about female directors. Like, yeah, but all those directors, she fits in that category, and the rest of them are men. So while that's maybe a part of it, it can't be the whole thing, because also Justine Triet was able to get into the category. So it's not, and they're not oblivious to female directors. So it's a very nuanced conversation, but that can't fit in a Twitter bubble. So, but as I've said before, I really don't believe in the word snub, because they're not deciding this in a room. They're just picking their favorites, and sometimes your favorites are number 6 on somebody else's, and that's just unfortunate,
Yeah, I agree. I think they did both get honored in what they did best. I mean, Margot Robbie pretty much started this whole movie as a producer. So Greta Gerwig, like you said, people highlight I think even though it is very well directed, I think people highlight the writing more so, and I think that's something that the writer's branch would go for much more than the director's branch, because as we keep talking about, the director's branch tends to be a little snobby. I mean, as talking about in the chat, May December, I'm still mourning them. I think they were. I mean, once again, I agree with you. I don't love the word snub, but snubs in my mind. They should have all gotten in there. But also, the Oscars were big on Asian talent last year, and they skipped over, I think, some huge contenders this year. Yeah, I think we don't want to spend too much on that discourse. I'm sure you've all heard plenty of discussion
Yeah.
surrounding all of that.
And Margot Robbie was the first person to say, don't feel sad for me, So I think
Mhm.
that's the other thing. The fact that these people have the platform to talk about their omissions just says that, as much as we want, they maybe deserve the nomination, they really don't need them for their careers. I mean, Greta Gerwig has
No.
already 2 movies lined up with the 2 Narnias at Netflix. Margot Robbie will work forever. When you have Robert Downey Jr. taking time away from his campaign to talk about how brilliant she is, they're going to be fine. And they might actually, at least when it comes to Greta Gerwig, I feel like more so than Little Women, the omission might
Maybe.
help her in a certain category. We'll get to that.
It might. I think the fact that Barbie is the biggest movie of the year, and like I think a lot of normies who probably don't pay close attention to awards and see that the 2 main people who were snubbed according to these headlines are Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig would get upset about it, and a lot of them don't know that they were still nominated in other categories. So it's understandable why it's so big. I just wish that we had this energy for people like, I don't know, Danielle Deadwyler last year, who I think would have been much more important for her to
And
be Best Actress.
I don't remember
Margot Robbie.
seeing like Tom Cruise snubbed last year when he missed
No.
Best Actor, and they were
No.
probably the same. Like, I bet you Margot Robbie was 6th, and I bet you Tom Cruise was 6th, and they both were nominated for producing their movies. So it seems odd that there was such a different reaction. And I just think it was because people were like, oh, Margot Robbie is
I think
Barbie.
because Barbie got other acting nominations hurts.
Yeah.
Like Top Gun wasn't getting in other categories.
That was the surprise, the fact that, and I think America Ferrera definitely helped the narrative, because if Ryan Gosling was the only acting nominee, it would have hurt.
That would have been worse.
But then in some cases, you could be like, how did you nominate 2 of the supporting people and not Margot Robbie? Which again just says this isn't like, they don't look at this like this some epic mosaic. They look at these individual categories, and you know sometimes you can sense trends, but other times you can't. It's how these things work. It's Lakeith Stanfield syndrome. Some of these things you can't you just can't explain.
Well, speaking of Best Actress, let's start with that category. Why not? If we're talking about our toughest categories to predict, let's move over to Best Actress, where if you look at the background image, I think most people think that we're covering their faces, but it's
wait. How do we do this?
I'm Lily Gladstone and you're Emma Stone. I think most people think it's between these 2. I actually think it's a 3-horse race, because I currently think Sandra Hüller might win BAFTA, and then I think the path is, it's really just SAG and BAFTA left. I think BAFTA might go to Sandra Hüller, which would make it much more interesting. And then I think SAG,
which we should know, because
go to Lily.
Lily Gladstone is not nominated at BAFTA, so that kind of takes. I think that's probably the thing that most people are saying is the biggest con against her path to the Oscar, is the lack of BAFTA support.
There's not a ton of crossover though between them. I trust SAG much more in terms of who is going to end up getting the win than and even nomination than BAFTA. Even as we saw with the nominations between BAFTA and SAG this year, SAG was much more accurate than BAFTA was. I think if Lily wins SAG, if Lily wins SAG, I'll probably predict her to win the Oscar, to be honest. I think because SAG loves narratives, as we saw last year, they pretty much went with every winner who had the best narrative. And I think out of all of the nominees here, she does have the best narrative. If Emma wins SAG and BAFTA, then it's a done deal. If Emma wins SAG and Sandra wins BAFTA, it'd be amazing if it was Sandra. I think that's probably a long shot though, but it's possible.
It's an interesting race. So who are you going with?
Right now, it's really dependent on SAG. So right now, I think Lily is still going to win SAG because they love a narrative. And I'm going to stick with Lily ever like 51%, 49%, or Emma Stone, not Margot Robbie. Maybe leave 1% or 2% for Sandra Hüller, who I do think is still possible. But what do you think right now?
Yeah, I agree with your perspective on the race. I think that Lily Gladstone has benefited from not having won an Oscar. And that they really sense that this is an actor who has done, incredible work in this film. I think some people know of her work previously in films like Certain Women, and I think they see this as somebody who's getting their breakout party. And there is just so much love and passion for her specifically, and in this film. Look at the reception she got at the Golden Globes when she won. listen for the applause when she was announced
Yeah.
as a nominee at the Samuel Goldwyn Theater at the announcements. There's a lot of love for her. And I think similarly to last year, where Kate Blanchett in Tar was definitely a very revered performance. But when it came down to actually giving somebody the Oscar, I think people felt that Michelle Yeoh, that Oscar would mean more. And I think
Hmm.
that same thought process is going to happen with Lily Gladstone. I also think that this is a chance where both movies are are. I think Poor Things maybe could sneak out a win in costume
One of
design
the
if people think,
designs. Yeah.
yeah, if they think that Barbie, the designs are based on the designs that already existed for the dolls and the
Yeah.
world, they could surprise there. But let's say Barbie does pull a Black Panther and gets both designs up against the Yorgos film, like the last time,
Yeah. Hmm.
then both of these films would be jockeying in this category to try and get a win. And I think you can't really say that they like one film more than the other. Poor Things has 11 nominations. Killers of the Flower Moon has 10. They're almost even Steven here.
Yeah.
And so it's really tough. I think there's a lot of love
Hmm.
for Emma Stone, and I think SAG could go Emma Stone's way because they love a movie star. We saw Denzel Washington triumph over Casey Affleck at SAG. But I am leaning Lily Gladstone because I do think her win means a lot. I think her performance is powerful. It's
Hmm.
so, I mean, she goes up against two titans and she clears the floor. I mean, she is by
Yeah.
far the most memorable part of that movie. It's a quiet performance with a lot of intensity, and I also think that it's even though, again, Poor Things, it is beloved, it has 11 nominations. I still sense that might, even more than The Favorite, I do sense that Kills the Flower Moon is maybe a little bit more palatable than Poor Things. And when it comes time to giving the win to something, it might be easier to give it to Lily Gladstone. I think the only things that really hurt her, screen time, it seemed to have hurt Viola Davis when she had less screen
Yes.
time than Frances McDormand and Carey Mulligan, and Frances McDormand won for Nomadland. And then, of course, Emma Stone, previous Oscar winner, and it is easier to get your second Oscar than to get your third Oscar, as was Kate Blanchett
Hmm.
was going for her third for Tar. Emma Stone, this would be her second win, and she, so far, I mean, she's only been in Best Actress once, but she did win,
Yeah.
so she seems to be.
Yes.
They Best
Perfect
Actress
track
was batting a
record
thousand.
currently. Yep.
So it's really close. I don't know if Sandra Hüller has enough to take these two out and really jump maybe
No,
1 to
it
two
maybe would
percent.
be like a vote split, like ever so slightly sneak in,
Yeah.
but I doubt that'll
Um,
happen.
but yeah, I think I'm gonna lean Lily Gladstone. I'm gonna look to SAG to try and like confirm that, and then I think that we can then just see a Brendan Fraser type of arc where you win SAG, you don't need BAFTA, and you go on to the Oscar.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. What was Brendan Fraser was what? Critics' Choice
Critics'
and
Choice,
SAG? That's it, right?
SAG, because he did not
That's
win the
it.
Globe because of the
No.
separate, you know, Michigas.
Austin Butler. Well, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Austin Butler and Colin
How did
Farrell won
Colin
that one.
Farrell not figure into that season at
He should
all?
have. He should have won,
Ugh.
to be honest. Him or Paul Mescal, but we don't need to talk about some of the acting winners last year. I do think the biggest thing against Lily Gladstone is, as people bring up and as you brought up, she is not a definitive lead in the film, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I know it's been a whole thing this whole season whether she's supporting or lead. The runtime within, or the screen time within the runtime, says more supporting, but I think she makes the most out of her screen time. And I also think she gives a more Oscar awards friendly performance than Emma Stone. We've seen performances similar to Lily Gladstone's win before, whereas Emma Stone's, that wacky nature of that performance, I'm not sure I've seen something quite like that win before. But I think that
Except
also could
Michelle
be a
Yeoh.
benefit. Yeah, but I think it's very different from what Michelle Yeoh was
It's
doing.
different, but I think what people loved about Joaquin Phoenix, Michelle Yeoh, even Brendan Fraser to an extent, is they appreciate the bravado of their ambitions and then what they accomplished. And I think it's fair to say, as much as Lily Gladstone is wonderful and a major reason for why that movie works, if it works, I have my issues with it, but I have no fault with her performance. I do think that Poor Things, if you love that movie, you owe it all to Emma Stone. As great as
Yeah.
Yorgos is as a director and Tony McNamara as a screenwriter, that movie rests on Emma Stone's performance, and some people might give her extra points for that.
Mhm.
I would say, as far as the limited screen time for Lily Gladstone, I would look my counterpoint to that argument being used against her is Silence of the Lambs, where
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins, that's a supporting performance, but he is the thing you remember from that movie. He is the most iconic part of the film. He's the performance that I think stays with you, up against somebody like Jodie Foster, who was wonderful in the
Mhm.
film as well. So even though he was, by percentage of screen time, probably should have been in supporting, he was put in lead because he's the thing you remember, and he was able to win.
Yeah.
And so I think that would, it's not always, I brought up Viola Davis because that was just our most recent example, especially in
Mhm.
this category. And maybe it is different for women and men, but it's not always. The screen time doesn't always hurt you.
No, no, and I agree. When you do leave that film, she's, I think, easily the thing everyone is talking about,
Yeah.
the standout of the film. So I do think, especially if they don't watch the film again, I think most people, a lot of voters will have probably seen it back in October, and I think most voters probably don't do rewatches. After seeing the film and now seeing the way that the awards campaign is constructed, it might even make people like subconsciously think that she was a much bigger part of the film than she ended up being, because all of this awards campaign,
That's
everyone
interesting. I
campaigning,
like
is
that.
focused on Lily. So she's like the face of the, even more than Scorsese, she's the face of the entire campaign for the movie. So I
Yeah.
think, I've had time to rewatch it once since then, and I think a lot of Academy voters are possibly more busy than me, making movies and such. So I don't know if they've had
I
time
don't
to
know
see it
about
since
that.
October.
They're coming out of a
This
strike.
is true. This is true. They might have had the free time, but I do think the campaign is very focused on her and might make her role and size in the film seem even larger. So I think we're both slightly leaning Gladstone here.
Yeah.
If Stone wins SAG, though, I think it's just a sweep then at that point.
Yeah, I would be pretty surprised if Emma Stone was able to. We have to say, because we have Gladstone and Stone. If
Yeah.
Emma Stone was able to win SAG and BAFTA, then I do think it would be hard, because then she has everything. She has Golden Globe, Critics'
She has
Choice,
everything. Yeah.
SAG, BAFTA. It would
It's
be
a
then
sweep.
hard to imagine Lily
It'd be nearly
Gladstone being
impossible.
able to take it. It's not impossible, but it would be very unlikely.
It'd be very, yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm very interested, because I do think that SAG, like,
It's a very
it's
populist group, and neither
it's a
of these
very
are very
populist group, and
populist performances.
again, because Poor Things on paper doesn't seem like it would appeal to the largest swath of voters. The fact that it did so well, and I would argue, I mean, I think it's somewhat overperformed. The fact that it was the second most
It's doing
nominated
good.
film, that and the fact that it overperformed The Favorite, to me, I thought, I understand it has those craft, but still, like, there's a lot of love for Poor Things. And I'm hoping that doesn't then create a La La Land situation, funnily enough, where then people,
Yeah.
turn the movie off, because it Poor Things doesn't have the Everything Everywhere thing, where I think what really helped Everything Everywhere is that people would have turned it off if everybody wasn't telling them this is going to win Best Picture. I think that helped people get to the end and then see how great the movie was.
They
Because
also
I
had a
know
whole year to watch it.
had a
Whereas
whole
Poor
year to
Things, they
watch
did
it.
not.
But I know, like, for example, in my family would have turned it off halfway through, and I said, you got to get going. And once it got to the end, they loved it, because the ending is just brilliant.
Yeah.
But I wonder if then that hurts Poor Things, because it's not being talked about in that way. So despite the wonderful nominations, it's one of those movies that gets a lot of nominations and could end up with 0 wins. But the same could be said for Killers of the Flower Moon, because if Lily Gladstone doesn't win that category, there's nothing else it could win. And
Maybe
just like
score, but I
Irishman,
doubt it.
it's 0 for 10. I
Yeah.
really don't think. I think what Ludwig Göransson achieved with Oppenheimer, the technological infusion of classical musicality, I just think that
I do
will
think
win.
Ludwig's probably going to win, but I also think maybe, just maybe, if the Barbies vote split in song, I do think there might be some votes for the Song of My People for Killers of the Flower Moon.
You're dreaming with that one, but I applaud
yeah,
you.
yeah. I think it might be my number 3 in the category, more above Diane Warren and whatever the other one was.
American Symphony and
American Symphony,
yeah, I would grant
Barbies
you. Well, because listen, you put the Best Picture nominees ahead of everybody else. That's just, if you ever this is not just for this category, but any category. If you have any doubts,
yes,
go with the Best Picture nominee. A great case of that was Best Original Score in 2018, since that seems to be a popular year that we're comparing to. Everybody was thinking If Beale Street Could Talk, but it wasn't Best Picture nominated. And yes, it was going to win for Regina King, but I think what gave people like me confidence to go with Black Panther is like, well, they've heard it they've seen the movie. We know they have. It's nominated for Best Picture. So that just, if you ever have doubt, go with the Best Picture nominee.
Yeah, this is funny. If SAG causes chaos in all of this Barbie Margot snub, because it's in the populist pop culture's icon. If she ends up winning, I doubt it, but that would be amazing.
You'd have to check the calendar. You'd have to check the calendar, but I think Emily Blunt winning for A Quiet Place might have been that scenario where she was nominated for both. She was nominated for both Best Actress for Mary Poppins Returns and Best Supporting Actress for A Quiet Place at SAG before the Oscar nominations came out. Oscar nominations came out. She didn't get either nomination because they went with the Roma actresses, and both deserving. And now we're in the world where Emily Blunt is nominated. All's well. But I think after the Oscar nominations came out and then SAG voting was happening, I wouldn't put it past you that maybe they looked at Emily Blunt and said, "Listen, you know, the
difference is the Oscar winner wasn't there with her, whereas I do think the Oscar winner is in the category with Margot."
Hurts her. And her biggest competition was Amy Adams for Vice, who also was somebody who had been overlooked. So like, it was the Emily Blunt overlooked was more immediate than Amy Adams, who they had come to live with being overlooked. So, but yeah. If Margot won Best Actress at SAG, that would be crazy.
Chaotic. Yes. And also, as Ayush brings up, I agree with this. If there were still 2 sound categories and it got into VFX, I do think Oppenheimer would have gotten the most nominations any film had ever gotten, because I think it would have gotten both sound categories, and I think it would have gotten VFX, and that's 15 right there.
That's true.
We don't live in that reality, unfortunately. 13. I'm sure Christopher Nolan's happy with his 13 Oscar nominations still, but yes.
13 Oscar nominations, almost $1 billion worldwide. Yeah, he's having the career of his dreams. We should note, though, that the SAG Awards for the last 2 years have surprised us. I don't think people were predicting Jessica Chastain to win for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and that's really where that campaign surged and started. A lot of people were going Nicole Kidman or Lady Gaga. And then, of course, last year, I really do think people were not outwardly predicting Jamie Lee Curtis to win SAG. So even though it might seem locked for Oppenheimer, Robert Downey Jr., Divine Joy Randolph, even though like we may think this is sewn up, they could still surprise. Something like a Margot thing could happen, just to Denzel Washington, as I said, that was even a surprise that year. It could happen. This thing isn't locked up as much as we may think it is.
No, we always think it's more locked up than it ends up being. They usually throw us a few surprises there. And I'm just going to keep saying it. Look out for Sandra Hüller. That's probably because she's my favorite performance of the year. But if she wins BAFTA, especially, I don't know. I would love to see it. She's incredible.
She's up there for me.
Yes, she's very, very good. Let us move on to the male side of things with Best Actor. I think we've got another two-hander here. You're Cillian Murphy and I'm Paul Giamatti. This is very close. This is the same path here, SAG and BAFTA. What's tricky is BAFTA loved The Holdovers. So I could honestly see a world where they give it to Paul Giamatti. I think it's going to go to Cillian, but I don't know.
The parallel lines between Three Billboards and The Holdovers are so strong as far as what nominations they got, what nominations they missed. Alexander Payne is an director, just like Martin McDonagh, but it could win 2 acting awards and nothing else. We think it has a strong shot in screenplay, but then a late breaking thing pops up out of nowhere. It's really interesting. I think what helps Cillian Murphy is that Bradley Cooper, it just doesn't seem to be in this conversation. And the argument that you could use to help Paul Giamatti, and that you have 2 biopic performances canceling each other out, allowing the original character to rise, doesn't seem to be, coming to fruition. It seems to be Cillian and Paul, and then the bottom 3. I really do think that Cillian Murphy is really admired for that performance, for taking on that, just the weight of that film and balancing it all. He is the movie. He is Oppenheimer. And I do think when all is said and done, there is a lot more love for Oppenheimer than Holdovers. And it would seem odd if Cillian Murphy didn't get it. And I think, not to say that Paul Giamatti would only be winning because it's a career thing, but I wonder if they then feel like, listen, these are two worthy winners here. And if we can only give it to one, Oppenheimer's covered in the acting categories, no less, where Paul Giamatti is delivering such wonderful work. And maybe he is the character that's stuck out to them more so. It's really tough. I think this is maybe the toughest one to call, and we are not going to know until SAG.
Because I think SAG, they do love a narrative, like we said with Lily, an actress, and I do think Paul probably has a better narrative than Cillian Murphy. But SAG, like we also said, is a very populist voting body, and I think besides Barbie, Oppenheimer is the most seen film of the year, it seems like. I think more people have seen Oppenheimer than The Holdovers. So I don't know, it's tricky. I think Paul might get SAG and Cillian will get BAFTA. And I think what breaks it for me is the fact that Cillian isn't a Best Picture winner, which I think puts him over Paul Giamatti, in my opinion. But it's very close.
Yeah. It is really close. And I think the other thing I go back and forth with these performances is that you have two very different types of narratives when it comes to the films themselves and the characters they're portraying that both have won Oscars. You have Paul Giamatti, who's a character that people love. I think there's a lot of warmth for him. And a lot of times you go with the character that has that level of warmth. You go with Colin Firth in The King's Speech over Jesse Eisenberg in The Social Network. That actually might be the closest comparison for these two.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, because, I mean, listen, Cillian and Jesse.
King's Speech won Best Picture, though.
That's true.
Oppenheimer is going to win Best Picture.
That would be the one discrepancy there. But I don't know. I could see a world where they obviously respect Jesse Eisenberg and Cillian Murphy, but they go with the person who's been around longer. That actually might be my reasoning. It's very tough because I think there is such respect and just sheer just acknowledgement of what Cillian achieved that rings true to me the same way that people talked about Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln or Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, like that sort of just unbelievable craft and just being impressed so much with their acting ability that they're just like, nothing else compares. It's very tough because also one is in a drama, one is in a comedy. You know, it's a really, really close race. And I think because people are behind both of them, you know, you don't sense that one camp is against the other camp. I mean, we love both of these performances ourselves. So it's tough. I think, listen, I can't, because we'll get to the screenplays. Oppenheimer is beloved. It is a unique film. And it's not going to win everything, but it's also not going to miss out on all the categories to be judicious. You know, they're not going to be, they're not going to spread the love that thin for Oppenheimer.
And both of these movies already have an acting one pretty much locked up also.
Exactly, too, which is also then the fun component. But I do, I think, you know, when you hear Matt Damon, who I think has a lot of respect in this industry, and I'm sure he's not the only one saying this, but when Matt Damon was saying that Cillian Murphy delivered one of the greatest performances he has ever seen, and I get it, he's in the movie, he's trying to make the movie that he's in look good. But as soon as you have people start saying that, you know he's not the only one saying that. And I do think that more people are saying that. And I also think that Cillian Murphy is emotionally moving in that performance. I think that final hour is what it is because of how much he has been able to make you care about Oppenheimer, and then your heart is broken. I mean, Oppenheimer to me has like the scale and scope of something like Titanic, Lord of the Rings, but I think it also taps into something that like Spotlight tapped into, where people are so angry or just so impassioned about this historical event and the injustice about what happened around the center of the story. And I think Cillian Murphy is emblematic of that because he's the character who was, you know, the injustice happened to in some ways, at least the injustice that Christopher Nolan depicted as far as what happened after the bomb went off and this country's discrediting him and everything to do with what the movie's actually about. When, you know, we thought we were going into a movie about the bomb and we actually went into a movie about, you know, the Red Scare.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
it's tough. It's tough. I think I'm going to
It
stick Killian,
is.
though. I'm going to stick with
I
my
am
boy.
too. I am too. I think it comes down to he's in the stronger film overall. And also, I think a lot of actors when they're voting, they look at what would be the tougher task acting wise. And I think when you look at these two roles, I think Killian's role, I mean, they're both tough roles, but I think carrying this 3 hour epic biopic where your face is in pretty much every frame is, I think, probably seen as a more difficult task than what Giamatti does in Holdovers. Incredible, but still, I think it'll probably be perceived differently. Um, so yeah, I think we're both leaning Killian. Right now, I think I'm gonna the path there. I think I'm gonna say SAG, Giamatti, Killian, BAFTA, Oscar, Killian. And I think that's all that remains. So I think it'll be a nail biter up until the end. But yeah, that is Best Actor. Let us move on to which screenplay one do you want to do first? Do you want to do adapted or original first?
Let's do original,
Let's
because
do original first.
that one is
Okay,
less stressful.
it is because I think we both agree. I would have Anatomy of a Fall winning here.
I agree.
Okay, yeah, okay. I think its biggest competition is Holdovers, probably,
I think what hurts
maybe
Holdovers,
Past Lives.
unfortunately for David Henningsen, is that I just think that he's not as big as somebody like
No,
Justine
yeah,
Triet. People know who Justine Triet is now at this point, and I do think that helps. A lot of times, yes, they're voting for Get Out, but they're also voting for Jordan Peele. Yes, they're voting for Women Talking, but they're voting for Sarah Polley. They know the
hmm
person who wrote the movie, and that
yeah,
helps them because it's and a lot of times too, it's the director consolation prize. It's
hmm
we really love your movie. And we might even, like 10 years from now, your movie will probably be considered the best movie of the year,
yeah.
but we can't give you best director or best picture. So we're going to give you
We'll
best
give you
screenplay.
screenplay. Yeah, yeah,
And so I think Anatomy of a Fall fits that. I mean, it got into editing.
hmm
Editing is the real key one that
yeah.
showed me that they really are paying
Every
attention to this
branch
movie.
likes
They
this.
love this movie. It would have won Best International Feature if it was in that category. I stand by that as much as I love Zone of Interest.
Oh,
Um,
easily, yeah.
and so, yeah, I think that it's really tough because The Holdovers has a perfect screenplay. It is so well written, and Past
Yeah.
Lives too. But I think Anatomy of Fall, its thematic ambitions are higher and excels, and it hits them, and it even goes beyond its ambitions. It's such a well-crafted screenplay, and I think the writers allowed people to really pay attention to that. And I think this is one of the movies that's benefiting from this corridor. People are seeing this movie for the first
hmm
time, and I think falling in
hmm
love.
Yeah, Neon planned out this release very well. And I think when you look at its competition, Holdovers, I think, at least in the way it's playing out rewards wise, is being seen more as an acting achievement than a writing achievement. Whereas I think with the awards Anatomy of a Fall is getting nominated for and winning, I think it's being seen most of all as a writing achievement above all, even though Sandra Huller, Milo Machado Grainer, some of the best performances of the year. But yeah, I'm leaning I'm pretty confident of the two screenplay categories that this is going to go to Anatomy, and this is where they'll award Justine. Um, I would think maybe Celine Song would have a stronger shot if Past Lives did better because they do like their writer directors in this category, but it just didn't do that well. So I'm gonna say Anatomy, and I think you agree. But this is true. Holdovers does make you smile, but
And cry. It's a great
yeah,
movie.
and
You
cry.
feel all the
Yes, yes, it
feelings.
is. It is. And yeah, getting director was a big boost for Anatomy of a Fall. Let us move on to the trickier one. Let us move on to adapted screenplay, where I don't know. It's Barbie. Maybe it's American Fiction. Right now, I'm going to leave the background of what I think it is. I think it's American Fiction currently. But I do the argument that the snubbage conversation could potentially help Barbie with getting the win it's very close for me. Kind of like with actors, I'm 51-49% here. I just think at the end of the day, I think American Fiction is probably going to be seen. I don't know, I think that are going to see it as the one place that they can award the movie that which they really liked. It overperformed. It got score. It got supporting actor. It did much better at the
Yeah.
Oscars than I
It
think
has
anyone
support from
expected.
the actors. It got an ensemble
SAG
nomination
ensemble,
that people weren't
yeah.
necessarily predicting. It wasn't a sure thing.
And this
Yeah,
is
I
the only
do.
realistic place that I think they can vote for it to win.
I really
Unlike
do think
Barbie,
it is between those two. I think Oppenheimer
yeah,
is third just because that movie's taken care of, and Christopher Nolan is the
yeah,
sole writer. So it's
hmm
not like we're honoring anybody else.
yeah,
I'm really torn because I do think that there is a lot of respect for Barbie on the page, that it's a comedy.
hmm
Both of these are comedies, first off. I think
they
that's
are,
really
yeah,
exciting and cool.
hmm
And even Holdovers is a comedy. It would be crazy if
Yeah.
Holdovers was able to win original screenplay and we had 2 comedies win the screenplay category.
Yeah.
Um, I'm torn because I think both films are similar too. Like they're both comedies. They're both films that I think try to have their cake and eat it too, and are successful in that regard because they're American Fiction and Barbie. American Fiction isn't at the level of a Barbie, but they're both movies that I think
No.
exist in the Hollywood specter. They're not trying to challenge you to the point that you're getting upset with anything. Like at the end, they want to put a smile on your face. I think you leave both movies with feeling good. I don't know if they're both feel good movies, but I don't know. I think they're definitely they're not Oppenheimer. They're not Killers of the Flower Moon. They're not depressing epics that are 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And so it's fun that it's these 2 movies that I think it comes down to.
Yeah.
I am going to lean Barbie because I do think
Okay.
that there is a lot of love for the movie. Just whether you want to talk about the omissions in directing and actress, you can put that aside. There obviously is love for the movie. Barbie does have more nominations than American Fiction. I also do think that just like Sarah Polley last year up against the movie that maybe made more sense, maybe had a little bit more love across the board, All Quiet on the Western Front.
That
and
was a
even
war
maybe
movie.
it was a war movie, but it was adapted. Like the adaptation of that was well known and maybe, was more, you could argue had a more like important historical context. Based on it was Germany's first time adapting this legendary material. And also that it was adapted from a Best Picture winner. Like there was a lot of legacy into that. But they went with Women Talking because I do think people were paying attention to Sarah Polley and they were paying attention to a movie that they had never seen before. And I think that Barbie, even if it's inadapted, they do credit with how original it was. I do think they're going to want to give something to Greta Gerwig. I think there's a lot. I think at this point, like she's like Emma Stone coming out to present Best Director the year of Lady Bird said these 4 men and Greta Gerwig. And then, there was all the hubbub when she was omitted for Little Women. Like there's so much passion there seems to be. And I think with Barbie, there's nobody that didn't get on board with Greta Gerwig. It just, everybody's just, I think, really respects her at this point. And setting aside, it's a really, in my opinion, a really well-written screenplay. I think that it takes what this could have been. It could have been a disaster. This could have been awful. And it creates this existentialist comedy that is so just freeing and talks about gender roles and is so much fun. It's this, you could look at it as a revisionist musical. It's so many things at once, while also you can't deny the box office means that it spoke to a lot of people. And it's the type of movie where the box office, even something like Top Gun Maverick, it's an action movie. We understand why that movie does well. Barbie, I don't think anybody was necessarily even Margot Robbie was like, I don't think when I said this was going to make $1 billion for the studios, I didn't necessarily believe it. I think the fact that it makes $1 billion is because of how strong that script is, that it did connect, that it became this cultural movement. And I do think people are paying attention to that. So I'm going to go against maybe the better judgment. You saying American Fiction might be the safer choice, maybe the more logical choice. But I do think
it's close though. I'm like so close to switching to Barbie. I don't know.
Let me ask you this: because I was actually struggling because like my mom was watching like the news and they were talking about Greta Gerwig not getting nominated. When is the last time that a movie's omission made this amount of headlines?
I don't know.
Because I can't remember.
It's been a long time. Dark Knight, probably.
Yeah.
If I were to guess.
And Dark Knight wasn't in one of these top categories, except the one that it was, which was Heath Ledger, and it won.
Ledger. Yeah.
So
that's true.
So I think that, Barbie, I also think Barbie's bigger than American Fiction. And that might help it as far as it having the gravitas to win one of these above the line awards. And we talk about, do they go with the new person? Do they go with, because Cord Jefferson, this is his first screenplay, or do they go with the people who've been around? I do think Noah Baumbach figures in a little bit. It would be a way to honor them both. Sure. They love them both. Both of them were nominated in 2019. So, yeah, and just looking at it, I just think that, Barbie wins song, maybe it wins costume design or production design, screenplay, like that. In my mind, that makes sense.
That's half of its nominations. Yeah, that's a pretty good ratio there. So, I'm probably leaning more towards Barbie now at this point. I've had American Fiction for so long that I kind of want to stick with it, but Barbie makes more sense, to be honest. So
Yeah.
I'm probably realistically would be more leaning towards Barbie right now. But we'll see. I think, as they point out in the comments, I forget who pointed it out. Here we go. WGA is not going to help us at all this year because
Yeah.
their nominations are later, their winners are later, so it'll be a nail biter until the end for this one,
And
for sure.
American Fiction is surging at the box office right now, in
Mhm.
its scale, not at Barbie level. So
Yes.
there is love for the movie. As you said, it did overperform. So I wouldn't be shocked if it won, but I also think that I think there's a lot of people that want to see that movie respected in an above the line category. And this is the one where it can win. So
I just do still
I get that
wonder,
sense.
like All Quiet last year with that comparison, they were voting for
Mhm.
that in tech categories, so they were giving it wins elsewhere.
Yeah.
Barbie, they're going to vote for it elsewhere too. If they like American Fiction, I think lots of people, when they're going down their ballot, they
True.
like to try and give each movie love. I think realistically, this is the only place where it can win. And this is
But
realistically the only place where they can put their vote towards it.
I would present you the inverse. Lady Bird didn't win any, and a
It's
lot of
true.
people were saying it was going to win supporting actress or it was going to win this because it was the way to give it something. We saw last year half the Best Picture
I
nominees
know.
didn't win a single award.
Some of the best
So
ones.
yeah, I mean, Tar,
Tar,
Fablemans. I mean, it was crazy.
Banshees,
Banshees. Oh my God, don't remind me. I think that
The
was like
Whale one too.
that and Babylon were like my top 4 of last year. So
Last year's winners were something. Yeah, there's some good ones.
I mean,
for
listen,
sure.
Everything Everywhere won the majority, won like 7, so like they consist of a huge percentage. But I think that figures into it. They may love American Fiction, but just like we talked about, maybe they loved you and you were number 6 for nominations. Maybe they love you, but you were number 2 for wins. It's just it depends on the season. And I get the sense, similarly to Lily Gladstone, more people want to see Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach. They want to see Barbie on that stage. I think they are more aware of this person. They're more aware of this movie, and they think this movie deserves it more this year. Cord Jefferson made it a wonderful film, and hopefully he will be back to win it again, maybe on the sophomore effort. He'll have his own La La Land type of thing. Because that's American Fiction and Whiplash, very different films tonally. Kind of similar things. They keep overperforming at certain places. There are a lot of people's, little indie that could. And yeah, it doesn't mean that they're going to win any, above the line. I know J.K. Simmons won, but that was a different year, different category, different competition. But it's the type of thing where they have their eye on you. They have their eye on Damien Chazelle, and then when he came back 2 years later, then he made Oscar history.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm leaning Barbie, but this is very close, and this is true. If both Barbie and An Admirable Fallen, we'll have 2 married couples winning both the screenplay categories. So that'll be fun, and I think they'll both give great speeches.
I love that I changed the thumbnail. That was fun.
You did change it. You changed the background. You have the power to influence the background. You all do in the comments as well. And I don't think. I forget what my top 4 last. Tar was definitely in my top 4.
Yeah.
I don't know if.
And then After Sun would have been my 5.
After Sun, and I think Nope was also in my top 4, but most of those were in my top 10 anyways.
Yeah.
So great films last year, and I agree.
We should do one of these days. I'll do my impression of the final scene of Fablemans because I have that locked in my memory.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Oh yeah.
A little reenactment.
You can be Sammy Fableman.
Okay.
You have the hair for it.
I do. I'll be Gabriel LaBelle. Okay, we've covered all the above the line categories at this point. Let's move on to, I think, the hardest, maybe category overall, but definitely hardest below the line category. Let's talk about visual effects.
Oh boy.
I think there's 3 movies that can win here. I think Godzilla could win. I think The Creator could win, and I think Napoleon could win. I'm leaning Napoleon, honestly, at this point, to be honest with you.
No.
It's the most like a Best Picture nominee. I think pretty much all besides Jungle Book of the previous Best Picture nominee or Best Visual Effects winners had a production design nomination, and the only visual effects nominee here that has a production design nomination is Napoleon. Got the most nominations. It's the most like a Best Picture movie of them all. I don't know. I'm leaning Napoleon. It kind of makes sense to me. It also got nominated at the BAFTAs, where I don't think either of those 2 did as well.
I'm
I don't
getting
know.
angry because you're making sense.
It
Okay.
makes sense, but I don't know.
Okay, so first off,
Visual effects, though.
do you know? I saw some rumblings of some controversy with Godzilla minus one. Is there anything to
Well,
that?
I don't know if there's going to like be more of a smear campaign against it. I do know I think people are reading into the fact that it cost very little money and it had a very small team, and the fact that in general over in I think Japan they do overwork their visual effects workers even more so than they do here.
Yeah, I'm like,
So I think
are we to talk? You know, they're
yeah,
going on
yeah. But
strike
the fact
probably
that
next year.
they were able to make that movie with that small of a team on that budget, I think, as Britt says, the employees were definitely beyond overworked. I think
Yeah.
that team looked very happy for the nomination. I think that video alone maybe influences people.
Yeah,
Very
because
very happy video.
I'm
But I don't
torn.
know.
I did go to see Godzilla minus one minus color today.
Oh
I'm fresh out of out of Japan,
yeah.
and I do think that why I was compelled to predict it for the nomination and why I'm somewhat compelled to predict it for the win is because we never see that sort of story come out of or narrative come out of
Yeah.
visual effects, and that would definitely, you know, the fact that it would be Japan's first win because it's Japan's first nomination in the category,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
Godzilla is part of a legacy, and that the visual effects did not have the resources of a Disney Marvel or something like that. You know, there's I think a lot to acknowledge about the achievement of Godzilla minus one.
It
I mean,
has the
it's one of
best
the
narrative.
highest. Yeah, and it's one of the highest grossing foreign language films of all time, you know.
Mhm.
So I think that it's or I should say non-English films, you know. There's a
Yes.
a
Yes.
lot of probably a lot of foreign language films. If you're in a different part of the globe, then
Yes.
Avatar is the highest grossing foreign
Yeah.
language
Exactly.
film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, I'm torn because I do think that that would be something that maybe motivates people. And I think because people pay attention to that sort of stuff. It's like, oh wow, Godzilla
Mhm.
did really well. It was this big success story. You know, those guys deserve it. You know, how you get played off in the trades a lot of times influences what you vote for.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, they're not watching the creator. If you didn't watch the creator
No.
before these, I bet you a lot
You're
of
not
people
watching it now.
like imagine you have like your list of movies you have to catch up on. Visual
That's very
effects is at the bottom. Like
yeah. Mhm.
unfortunately, I think listen, you should have to. I feel like they should do something where you have to, you know, watch these movies in like a portal or something, and they can tell whether you like watch the whole thing. There's got to be a way.
But then that's what if you saw it in theaters though?
Then maybe you
Like
send, hey, Disney Movies
your
Anywhere.
ticket?
I had to send like a ticket, and then the
I
ticket said
don't
like
know.
Avengers: Age of Ultron, and then they gave me points for going to the movie. I
I
don't
don't
know
think
what to
most people
do.
keep their tickets.
Or then send in the ticket barcode. I don't know. I just think, you know, it's crazy that people can vote on visual
It
effects and
is.
not have seen maybe 4 out of the 5 movies.
Mhm.
But as far as those other two, your Napoleon thing makes sense. It's probably
And Daniel has the stat here. The production design
yeah,
correlation this century, the only ones beside that one visual effects without a production design nomination are Spider-Man 2, Jungle Book, and Ex
yeah.
Machina. So
If only Oppenheimer was in this category. Um,
easy win.
I do think what helps then, if you're gonna, what hurts Godzilla is that it just isn't in any other category. At least the creators in sound, um, and that's probably your most traditional visual effects winner as far. And you know, to be fair, I mean, the creator, it wasn't the biggest hit, but it made some money, and it's an original movie. You know, similarly
Napoleon
to
made a
Ex
lot of money
Machina,
for
Napoleon
what
made
it
a lot of
is.
money. Um,
They both lost money still, but yeah.
am I really gonna pick Napoleon?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because it
It
makes
kind of makes
sense,
sense.
and
It makes
it's
the most
Ridley
sense.
Scott. It has the correlations, and it, you know,
It's the most best picture of them all too, which we always bring up with this
yeah.
category. That's why 1917 won over Endgame and Lion King and stuff that year.
And it's this, you know, the certain locales, like, and you know, the scenes like when all the horses are on the frozen lake, and they like
Mm-hmm.
it has its moment, it has its visual moments. Just the idea that
Napoleon having
Napoleon
an
is an
Oscar.
Academy Award winning movie,
Yeah.
and
Well,
like
there are plenty of bad Academy Award winning movies
I know,
last year
I
alone.
know. All right, change the thumbnail. Do you have it?
I don't have Napoleon. No. Let me. I came in here arguing for Napoleon, and I don't even have it. Let me make sure I don't.
You
I
expected
don't
I
think
was
I
gonna
do.
turn you over.
I just expected Godzilla was like the most popular. I think it is probably still like most people's number one pick here. I'm leaning Napoleon, but
because I think
it
it's
just still
film
is
Twitter's
weird to me
number
because
one.
it doesn't.
Godzilla is
Most
definitely
definitely.
film Twitter's number one.
Hmm.
But film
It's got the
Twitter does not
passion there.
vote for the Academy Awards. And Napoleon,
They do.
what's the other two? It's Guardians and
Guardians and Mission
Mission
Impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are so you look at it, and Napoleon, out of the ones that are like considered Oscar fare, because those other two aren't,
Yeah.
like it is the most seen. It's more seen.
Hmm.
Like that could be the truth. Because listen, Napoleon got what, 3 nominations? You know,
Yeah. Creator
yeah,
got 2. Godzilla got 1. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
How
so
is the
are
Bake
you
Off
going Napoleon
for
too?
Napoleon?
Napoleon.
Do you know?
It was pretty good, I think. I think it wasn't like the strongest, but I mean the fact that
Strong
it got
enough.
in speaks to the fact that the Bake Off was good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Godzilla definitely has the best narrative. I don't know how much narrative helps in visual effects. I don't know how much people are paying attention to that when it comes to that
Yeah.
category.
So then I think it's just, and I think if we're being honest, I think what helped Ex Machina that year was that it was the Alicia Vikander year. She was waiting for the Danish Girl. She also had The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Burnt. She was everywhere, and she was winning Critics Awards for Ex Machina. I even think wasn't she nominated at the Golden Globes in both categories?
I think so. I
So
forget though.
that helped Ex Machina stick around, and then it really came down to this turn where they said we're not going Star Wars, and they wanted to go highbrow, and they wanted to go for Ex Machina. I don't know if the creator fits that bill, and if that's the case, then Napoleon is probably the most well-known non-comic booky, non-traditional blockbuster. So maybe it does win. Why isn't Poor Things and Oppenheimer in this category?
I think what's going to make it even more difficult is the fact that Oppenheimer is pretty much getting nominated for visual effects everywhere before this, and it's probably going to win pretty much everywhere before this. So we're not going to really know at all. So I don't know. I guess I'm going to go Napoleon, but
listen, I swayed you on adapted
Napoleon?
screenplay. You swayed me on visual
Only
effects.
I had a Napoleon picture to put in the back, and we're stuck. Godzilla is still there. But yeah, anything else on? I think that's pretty much it for visual.
That's pretty much it.
Marvel once again never winning the visual effects category, even in a year like this. It's crazy how we went from Dune 2 to Oppenheimer to Napoleon.
At least next year will be Dune 2. Hands down.
For sure. Hopefully. That's crazy. Yeah, that's visual effects. I think one more that we can quickly touch on is this whole thing. We can put Barbie back up there. Because I'm thinking maybe, we can imitate them.
Wait, I have to be driving the car.
You would have to be driving, and I'd have to. I'm Ken. I'm freaking out. What was I saying?
Costume production design. Poor Things or Barbie.
It's definitely Poor Things versus Barbie. I'm thinking Poor Things is at least in my mind more of I would be voting for Poor Things. I think it might be seen as, I don't know, more of an achievement. But I think if one of them's winning, one will probably win the other. I don't know if it's going to split votes. If Poor Things is going to win one of these two, let me ask you this: which I think it has a better shot in production design. Would you say that as well?
No, I would think it has a better shot because I think again the costumes are based on the dolls that existed. Where the production design, because my thing with production design, it's not only like the set design, like the the artifice of it all. It's the world. Like Wakanda wins because of the designs, but also because of the world they created. I think that gets them a lot of credibility in the category. And I think if you're arguing which one, Barbie Land becoming a real world like that. Now you could argue, yes, but there's a lot that's not in Barbie Land, and that's fairly straightforward production design. But also like the Mattel offices are not necessarily as straightforward as people think. I think people just pay attention to the scenes at the school and the Chevrolet car chase.
Car commercial,
it's like those two scenes are like, it's not winning production design. But I think, we didn't discount the scene in the car chase. Black Panther had a car chase in Korea. We didn't say it's not winning production design.
Costumes were a little better in that car chase, but yes.
Well, the production design though, we didn't negate
production
design for that. So, and I think the costume design in Poor Things just so original and creative, and then you go into like the specificity of what it means thematically in the movie and her coming of age journey being represented in the design and the patchwork and just. It's tough. I feel like that would be where it breaks, but I don't know if it's going to break. That's the other thing. Because
Mhm.
I want to look it up. Okay, so hang on. So since Black Panther, have they do
Yes.
we know if they usually split? Do they tend to like?
Um,
It's really tough.
so 1917 one production design, costume design was what, that Little Women? So then the
Yeah, Little
following
Women.
year was then
No.
Ma Rainey, right?
Yeah,
And
and Mank.
what one?
Wasn't it Mank?
And Mank, Ma Rainey and Mank, yeah. And then the
Okay.
following year was what one costume? Cruella and
Dune.
Dune. And then
Hmm.
last year was All Quiet and what one costumes?
Costumes
Last
was
year.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Black Panther. Oh yeah, Wakanda Forever, yeah.
Sign us up for your Oscar trivia pool, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God, it scares
I
us. It
think we
scares
got that
me.
right. I don't know.
No,
The
I think
comments
we
will
got it
correct
right.
us. Okay.
But so I don't know if they don't tend to go
Oh wait, no,
both.
I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood
Yes,
win?
yes,
Yes.
yes, that's right.
Okay.
Once upon a time, it was
That
that
is right.
and Brad Pitt.
Mhm.
That was its
So
two.
it's still a split, but yeah.
1917 one sound
Visual
mixing,
effects.
visual
Oh
effects,
yeah, they were split. Yeah, I forgot about that.
and there was one more. What did it win? Oh,
Cinematography.
cinematography. That was
Yeah,
it. That was the three.
those three.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, but I could see your argument. Make your argument. Make your argument the other way. Woo! Make your
For
argument the other way.
for Poor Things?
Yeah, so because I think you
I
said
don't
that if it's gonna win one, Barbie will
Yeah,
win
but now
costume.
that the comments are making me change my mind on that too. I think the fact that everyone wants to go to Barbie World, and I think Barbie could potentially maybe even win at the BAFTAs. I think that does make more sense for production design, to be honest. I just personally, I think maybe my own, like I was looking at behind the scenes stuff for Poor Things. I just personally find that like so impressive that I think maybe that swayed me. Just because they do also create an entirely original world in Poor
Mhm.
Things, different from Barbie.
Yeah,
But
it's
I don't
it's
know.
the
To me,
same move. It's the same
it's very similar
like
in a lot of
it's the
ways.
same artistic ambition. It's just are you going with one that's more based in Americana or European
Mhm.
culture?
That's true. Yeah, the Academy is more international. Yeah, I do think costumes maybe does make more sense, especially since I think Jacqueline Duran has, as like to points out, Jacqueline Duran has won before. So I don't think the Poor Things costume designer has ever been nominated though.
Yeah, but the
What?
names aren't on the ballot for the below the line people, so
No,
I don't
that's
know if
true.
that matters that much. Like if you're a Roger
Mhm.
Deakins, then yeah, they know who you are, or Ruth
Yeah,
Carter. But I don't know if if they don't know who you are, I don't know if it hurts you
Barbie's
because
costume designer is
yeah.
physically in the movie though, so I don't think that changes anything at all.
Is
But
that true?
she's the woman on the bench, right?
Is that her? I don't
I'm pretty sure. I've seen
I
that
think
on the
she's a
internet. Maybe
costume
that's
I
wrong.
think she's a costume designer. I do not think that she is the costume designer for the movie,
Okay,
and
she's
she is
probably.
not the real life Barbara Handler.
Oh no, I don't know where maybe everyone's just throwing different narratives upon who that lady on the bench is, and she's
But I
really the
think her
one.
name is like Ruth something. I'm gonna look it up.
Ruth. No, I was going to
Who's
say
the
Ruth Handler,
lady
but that's
on the Barbie
um
bench?
maybe she's a costume designer. Maybe she
Sorry,
was the
Anne
production
Roth.
designer. Anne Roth. That was the lady
Um,
on the bench.
that was the lady
Well,
on the
that's not
bench.
Jacqueline Duran then.
Yeah, no, Jacqueline, because we know who Jacqueline Duran is when she won her Oscar a
Who's
couple of
Anne
years
Roth
ago.
then? Who are people
And,
saying who that is?
well, Anne
Did she
Roth is a
work on the
costume
film?
designer. I'll give you the thing. I'm sure our commenters are like, "How could you not know Anne Roth off the top of your head?"
I'm sorry, I do
Um,
not. She delivered
Anne
her lines very
Roth,
well.
most well known for being an actress in Barbie. Thank you, IMDb.
Really? Oh wow.
Okay, she did Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and she won an Oscar for that. She
Oh,
was
okay.
nominated for The Hours,
She's a costume designer,
Talented Mr. Ripley, The English Patient, Places in the Heart.
but she didn't
Um,
work on Barbie.
she did not do the costumes for Barbie. She is just an
Okay.
actress. She's starting her acting career.
Interesting. Yeah, she's starting
Um,
her acting career. Never too late to start, guys. Never too late. Um, okay. I don't think the fact, even if that was Jacqueline Duran, I don't think that changes the race at all. But interesting. Learn something new every day. Um, yeah, I'm probably gonna go. This is gonna go the Black Panther route in these categories, and Barbie will
she
probably
did
just win
Clute.
both.
Oh wow, Anne
Oh,
Roth. Wow,
you're still scrolling down her IMDb. She's very acclaimed, Oscar-winning
9 to 5,
costume designer. 9 to 5.
Silkwood.
Oh wow, we're going very far back in time.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
She's great. Okay.
She's got a
She's
career.
become
She's got a
she's
career.
and she has one credit as an actress as the woman on the bench.
Best first credit
Best
ever.
supporting actress. Best
Yeah.
breakthrough performance.
She did do very good. She did do very good.
I know it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm probably gonna. I don't know. I kind of want to do Poor Things in one of them, but I'm not even confident which one I would pick for Poor Things to win in. So I'm just gonna go with Barbie for now. But we'll have to wait and see who wins the ADG and such, and the costumes and all that guild stuff coming up very soon within the next few weeks that we'll have to pay attention to closely. But that's pretty much it, unless anyone in the comments has categories they're struggling with they want to throw our way. Are there any ones you're struggling with outside of the ones we talked about who are extra
I
tough?
don't
I think the two supporting are easy. Director and pictures easy.
Picture, yep.
Editing is Oppenheimer. Pretty much everything else is Oppenheimer. To be honest.
That's why it's easy.
International Zone.
I mean, the shorts.
20 days.
I mean, I don't know about the shorts.
Yeah.
Because I think documentary short is probably the ABCs of book banning. They tend to go with
watch them. But yeah.
They tend to go with the issue that's most like politically aware at the time.
That's a good title too.
Yeah, and then Wes Anderson for live action short.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So
and then animated
shorts are easier that year.
Would be, I think maybe Grandma and Grandpa would win that one. Or
that one or 95 Senses looked cool.
I think that's very. Or our uniform also has very interesting animation.
Yeah.
So the shorts make or break how you do on
documentary. Are you going 20 Days of Maripol?
Yeah, I think now that Beyond Utopia and American Symphony are gone, I think it's pretty.
And Spider-Verse for animated feature.
Yeah, I think when you look, I think everyone's voting for it. Maybe if it was just the animation branch, it could be Boy and the Heron, but I don't. I think Spider-Verse is the much more popular film.
And would become the second franchise after Toy Story to win 2 Oscars in the category.
Yeah. And it could, unlike Toy Story. I mean, Toy Story technically did because the category wasn't around, but go 3 for 3.
It would have won 4 for 4.
Well, Toy Story would have, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sound. Some people may be thinking Zone. I'd love it. I haven't seen it. Let's be clear. Just from what I've heard, I would love it. One less one for. I mean, I don't like when a movie wins so much, but I mean, the sound in Oppenheimer is amazing. So it's connected to editing. I don't know.
What's my favorite movie of the year, Mr. Jack?
Oppenheimer. Is your favorite?
I would give Zone of Interest best sound.
Oh, you would? Oh, wow.
I have never felt the sound design in a movie like this. It is so unsettling to the point that it is like advancing. Like they should teach. If you are a sound design professor and you don't teach this movie, you're doing it wrong. Amend your curriculum. It is so good. I can't believe I'm getting this impassioned about sound design, but when you see it, for people who have seen it,
good.
It's so good.
Yeah. I need to say it. Yeah, as Ayush says, if you watch Zone of Interest, you have to pick it in sound.
You have to. The same way that if you see Oppenheimer,
race.
The same way that if you see Oppenheimer, you have to give it best film editing, in my humble opinion.
Or Anatomy, but one of those two. I love Anatomy's editing.
Remember, Oppenheimer is 4 narratives at once, and
Oppenheimer
never get lost.
More impressive, yeah, and it flies by for 3 hours.
Flies by. So that's my. Listen. I think Anatomy Fall gets screen. In my perfect world, Anatomy gets screenplay. Film editing goes to Oppenheimer. Zone gets sound. Poor Things gets costumes. Love. Barbie gets production. Everybody gets some love.
they all did a very good job. Yeah. Also, some requests for makeup and hair, which I do think is an interesting one to discuss. Let me get a Bradley Cooper image in the background. He's doing that, and he's got his makeup going on right there. His old days. I honestly thought the makeup looked better.
No.
Oh,
try,
almost.
No,
close enough.
There we go.
There we go.
Yay!
You are the maestro of this channel. I thought the makeup looked better at this point. I thought it looked a little weird when he was younger, to be honest. But I think it looks good here. But I do think. Do you think Poor Things? I think if someone else wins here, it would be Poor Things. I think there's a world where.
Listen, what do we talk about? What's the biggest correlation with this category?
Acting.
I could see Oppenheimer. To be perfectly honest, if they're just not in the mood for Maestro, because it does seem odd that Maestro would win one and that be
But it
makeup.
has like
It has
Vice,
happened.
Bombshell. It has happened.
That's true.
Before.
That's true. But I think that reasoning is because we expected it to be a bigger performer, and the fact that it would only win makeup, it's odd. And so it probably is still the chance to win. But if you're going to look for an upset, I would go Oppenheimer, because they have to age them throughout the movie. Like, and Downey looks completely different in the later scenes. Like the makeup is the makeup is so good, people didn't recognize Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Your favorite anecdote about Oppenheimer's.
I don't get that at all. That's very clearly Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
but yes.
And I will say, with sound, as much as I love it, and I think a lot of people who are really paying attention to the sound love it, and maybe the sound designers love it, it's the loudest movie. That's what wins that category. So that's Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it is. It is. Good to see we are supporting Zone of Interest. Someone just got a Zone of Interest. Yeah, I need to wait to see Zone of Interest soon. But yeah, I agree on the makeup terms. I'm leaning Maestro still. I think that's pretty much it. I think all the other categories are. I would probably give cinematography to maybe Saltburn. Honestly.
I would have given it to Saltburn too.
Yeah.
Then Maestro. Then Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Yeah. Cinematography is really good this year.
It is. It's very good.
Yeah,
I think
those three Poor Things. Oh my God, it's just so good. Rye Lane.
Oh my God, right. The way the colors pop in that movie, crazy.
So good.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I agree. Robert Downey Jr. looks like Robert Downey Jr.
I never said that. I just know.
I know.
You said that you ran into people, and I was like, really? And then my father did it like a week later.
Yeah.
He was like, that's Robert Downey Jr.
I know. I don't get it. It's the fact that he doesn't have a Tony Stark goatee. People are like, what? It's like,
he's not, he's not cracking jokes. But hey, if enough people have that opinion, maybe that's what wins Best Makeup.
Shaving wins you an Oscar, guys. Shaving will win you an acting Oscar.
Everybody was like, you need to lose like 50 pounds to win an Oscar. Nope, you just need to shave.
Yep, that's all he needed to do to win that Oscar. It's
just call up Sweeney Todd and you'll win an Oscar.
Yep.
Oh boy.
I think that's pretty much it. Let me just get something else in the background so we don't end on Maestro.
Hello.
Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sunshine. Unless anyone else, I'll give you all a second if you have any other categories for that. I think we've pretty much talked about everything. So supporting, and we'll both be going to RDJ and Divine.
Yeah, we kind of just this turned into we'll give you picks for every category.
yeah. I think we.
This is our January. We should change the thumbnail and make this our January
Oscar predictions. Yeah, because I think we did. I can't think of a category we didn't cover. To be honest,
we did the shorts.
We even did the shorts.
Oh, Zone of Interest is winning international feature. We did them all.
Obviously. Yeah, we did. I think we have actually done them all. We quickly touched on Oppenheimer, obviously, in director and picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't see any more questions. So actress. We both thought it was very close between Lily, Emma. I thought maybe Sandra, if she wins BAFTA, could sneak in there, but that probably won't happen. I think we're both leaning Lily, right? Especially if she wins SAG, which we both think will happen. If she loses SAG, then I think it's going to be Emma, but ever so slightly leaning Lily. Razzie predictions. I don't even know what they nominated, so I don't pay much attention to the Razzies.
Sorry.
Flash for everything. Yeah. And I think that's pretty much it. Anthony, shorter episode this week. Not a ton to talk about this week in the aftermath of the Oscar nominations, which probably one of the lesser surprising patch of nominations we've had recently. There wasn't any Andrea Riseborough or
when Annette Bening is your big surprise.
Yeah. Which I shouldn't have doubted myself. Everyone doubted me when I did it at the beginning, and then I joined the club. I should have stuck with it.
Didn't you think it was a different movie, though? Am I remembering that correctly?
No, I think I knew what it was. I forget. There was something about it that I didn't.
Or that I think you realized who it was. Like some of the controversy about Diana Nyad, like you realized.
Oh, that's what I didn't know. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
There was something about it, which I think she came out. The real person came out and said that no, I was wrong. I believe
there's I don't know, but there's stuff going on with that movie. But yeah, I was high on it. Then I saw it too, which I mean, didn't help either. And yes, people are continually blaming me for net betting, I guess. It's all my
Yes,
fault. I threw
Diana
that
and
out
I.
there in August.
Just to be clear, Diana Naya does say, she said, I stand with them, and she did come out reversing her stance on trans athletes. So,
Oh, okay.
which,
Okay.
listen, I'm fine. If you see the error of your ways and you come out and say that, I'm all for second chances. You got to stand
Doesn't
by your
help the
second
fact that the
chances.
movie wasn't good.
Yes.
But yes.
Doesn't have anything to do
In
with
the
that.
end, still not a
Hey,
good
I
movie.
didn't hate the movie. I enjoyed it. It was a good Netflix watch. It was a good afternoon, Sunday afternoon
felt
watch.
to
And
me
Jodie Foster
like-
was fun.
It felt to me like a movie that people watch like in movies, like when someone has a movie on in a
You're
movie,
saying
it
it's a
felt like
Tropic
that
Thunder
to me. I felt like
styled.
that. It did. Like very like not amazing, like
Oh
basic.
God.
But Jodie Foster's great in it. Also great in True Detective, streaming right now.
Which is what she actually got nominated for.
Yes, she'll be nominated
Oh,
for an
God. She was
Emmy
good
and
in
an Oscar
Nyad.
for True Detective, first ever.
Yeah. She might win the
yeah.
Emmy. We'll see.
We'll
Is
have
that
to
that's
see,
an
yeah.
anthology series, right?
That'll
That
be
would
in Limited.
qualify-
Limited is going
qualify
to be a
for-
little. She'll be up against Kate Winslet there. There's a few other people she'll be up
She
against.
wins all the time. I love Kate
Winslet.
Winslet, but I don't know.
I would like to see Jodie Foster win.
Because this is Jodie Foster's Mayor of Easttown, I feel.
I think so too. I think so. And I love Mayor of Easttown's kind of like a True Detective, like sibling in a way, cousin.
Yeah.
And early 2025 Oscar predictions. What do you think's winning Best Picture right now, Anthony?
I don't think that movie has been made yet. I think it's being financed right now.
You think it's being made right now? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My joke answer will be Challengers. My actual maybe serious answer would be I think Sing Sing could potentially, if A24 puts all their weight behind it, it's a feel-good movie. Could potentially win, but don't trust that. I said Nyad would be an Oscar contender, which it was, but who knows?
The real question is Joker 2 a big hit? Is it gonna be the next sequel? This is interesting. Will Dune Part 2 and Joker 2 both be movies where the predecessors got in for Best Picture and these movies also got in, joining Avatar 2, Godfather Part 2, and The Two Towers? Or does one of them get in, or neither?
I only think one does. I think Dune gets in. I right now think Joker might make money. I don't know how it will be quality-wise. I also think the the zeitgeist perspective and perception of that film, I think, has only hurt it since 2019. So I do think there may be more people against it now.
It's heard it on film Twitter. I don't know if because the industry loved it. It was the most nominated movie that year, and I don't think there's not that much regret over. I let's put it this way: my directing professor right now, my directing professor I'm taking right now in film school, it's one of his favorite movies. So I think, he put it on his list. So.
Taxi Driver is then one of his favorite movies of all time because that's what it is.
His favorite actress is Bette Davis, so he has taste.
Okay.
So
we should just swap it with Taxi Driver, King of Comedy.
So listen, I'm interested. I think what helps Joker 2 is that it has the crafts because it's a musical.
That helps too.
You would think,
but yeah.
Do
you think they'll market it as a musical?
It's the release date. It bothers the hell out of me. I hope it's not forgotten. I hope it's not the Batman. That's what I hope with Dune Part 2.
Well, yeah, but I think Batman's a little. I think.
I agree. I agree.
Locked technical nominations that will be enough to get into picture. I don't think it'll get director.
I think it'll be better than the first one too.
Mm-hmm.
So that
I agree, and I think it'll make a lot more money.
Last question: What did you say about?
Do you think they're not marketing anything as a musical? Do you think they'll market that Joker one as a musical?
I mean, listen, if you're looking at
Lady Gaga.
Was Wonka marketed as a musical? Because it's Willy Wonka. The original was a musical. It just seemed odd that it seemed like it was a musical to me, but I don't know.
Mean Girls definitely wasn't. Neither was Color
Mean Girls wasn't. And let's put it this way: Color Purple was probably the one that was marketed the most as a musical, and it's also the one that did the worst. And it wasn't the worst received as far as critical and audience. I think Mean Girls. Mean Girls was probably the one that got the most. But also, Mean Girls was the one that I think most people were shocked that it was turned into a musical. So maybe that had something to do with it. Long story short, I think it's going to be difficult because Lady Gaga, she's going to want to promote the music. And I'm sure she wrote music for it. I feel like that has to be in her contract if she gets an original song. Yeah. It'll be interesting because I feel like you got to get out ahead of that. You can't, if you trick all the people who love Joker 1 into seeing a musical, it's not going to end well.
It'll be
Maybe it
interesting
will.
having the Joker fans and the Lady Gaga fans in the same theater together. Will be a very, because I don't think there's a lot of crossover there, not at all.
On October 5th, 2018, I think that was the day. When, or maybe it was the 4th, whatever. No, it was the 5th.
Oh, the Venom and Star is
Venom and A
Born.
Star is Born. Those crowds are coming. That Venn diagram is
All
coming
the
together.
Matthew Libatique fans, you know, all in
All
the
right,
theater
we are
that day.
spiraling.
I do want to mention, I think Justin makes a good point. I think Dune 2 will be like Avatar 2 and Joker 2 will be like Black Panther 2. Doing
True,
a bunch of text,
but
picture, Joker, maybe
my-
one acting and a few texts.
My counterpoint is that I think Black Panther 2, as much as I love it, it still comes out of the Marvel machine. I don't think you can say that whatever Joker 2 is attempting is part of any machine. Like, it's taking a big risk. So maybe a bigger risk than the first Joker. It might be a more original movie. It might get credit. So,
Hopefully.
the question is whether it's
another
rotten
Barbie
or not.
movie.
That's what I think is interesting. Is it going to be like well received or not?
Joker's
no idea.
Joker's in the 60s on Rotten Tomatoes, I think. And I
68.
think more critics, I think maybe what I was saying about it being better perceived now than it was back then would probably apply more to critics than it would to the Academy. So if it gets a rotten, I don't know. I think it could get a rotten, to be honest.
I'm breaking my cardinal rule of talking about next year's season before this year's season ends. So we need to end the show.
Yeah. One Saoirse Ronan, Best Actress. I agree. The Outrun, she's getting great raves for that. For Sundance. I didn't see any Oscar. I saw, I think, 5 movies at Sundance, so I'll talk about it at some point. I don't think any of them were Oscar. Most of them very good. I think I liked all of them. June Squibb for Best Actress for Thelma, doing all of her own stunts at the age of 94 is very impressive. Tom Cruise would never.
Tom Cruise would if he's alive at 94.
Yeah,
he will.
He will. June Squibb is setting the precedent for Tom Cruise. He's going to follow in her path. But yeah, I'll talk about those Sundance films at some point. But I think that's one more thing, Lily, because of narrative. I think it's a little different for Lily. She's more than just. I think narrative helps her, but I think
she's the best part of the movie. She's narrative. She's a deserving, important historical win. She has everything going for her, and I think she is the more palatable performance. She's the performance that I think more people can get on board with.
Palatable for sure. But we'll have to see. I think SAG will tell all with Best Actress in particular more so
and
than
Best Actor.
Any other category. Yes, but I think whoever wins SAG, I'm going to predict at the Oscars. If Giamatti wins SAG and Cillian wins BAFTA, I'm still going to go Cillian. So I think Best Actress is maybe a little more weighty.
Interesting.
We'll have to see. SAG's coming up soon. We'll expect some predictions for those. You're getting a little preview right now, but soon.
We've turned this one video into like 5
into everything.
Sundance recap, 2025 predictions.
Every category we just covered. We covered it all, and in a much shorter runtime than we usually do. So congrats to us. Less to talk about, though, to be fair. So, Anthony, when you finally watched Thelma and gave it 5 stars for June Squibb for Best Actress.
Best stunt choreography.
Best stunt choreography. Where would they be able to find that?
At Anthony_post on Letterboxd and Twitter, and currently looking for any footage of Joe Locke's first Broadway performance in Sweeney Todd. He looks to be doing a wonderful job. I am so mad that I had to fly back to school 5 days before he did his first performance. I would have been there.
That sucks.
I'll be
well. We'll have Tony talk at some point, I'm sure. Not with me. We'll bring Constance back for that.
I think you should come and you just try your best.
I'll be like the ref, like going back and forth. The moderator or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about my Sundance films. I only reviewed 2 of them on Letterboxd, so I'll put the other few up there. So I forget my Letterboxd thing. I think it's somewhere. You'll find me. Hopefully. And that's really it. Subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. We've got plenty of fun stuff coming up in February. It's gonna get crazy. Not as crazy as it was before.
And then we still have March.
Still got, it's early in March, to be fair. It's like the 10th. So
it's not the end of March, like 2021.
We've got the Emmys. Yeah.
All
all that fun
stuff. Goodbye.
Emmys. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.